with the whole Contender Series thing and the fact that
Overrated.
they were floating the idea of extending it when we're already looking like at some divisions are getting watered down. Where you can really tell like the levels, they're not quite there yet for these guys coming in. It's like you're looking at watering down the scene, all these new guys coming in. I'm glad. I hope. Have you heard anything about them doing that winter series?
I have heard that they're trying to do it, and then they're also trying to do the Ultimate Fighter. It's going to backfire. Here's the issue: is that and I know why they're doing it, because obviously they want to fill up these ESPN cards, which again they're doing too many. Like, I remember a day when you'd have a pay-per-view and there would be weeks in between, and you get that anticipation, and you'd see the countdown show like a week before, and you get really excited. A lot of that's gone now because there's too much going on. Like, even for me, even on the West Coast, thank God I'm not in the East Coast anymore, where I have to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch a pay-per-view. I PVR a lot of stuff now. Like, usually I'll eat dinner and then watch the card after or something. Like, I don't usually watch it live because I got stuff going on, but it's just too tough to keep up. And getting back to Contender Series, what I mean by that is that like everything's suffering because of it, because you're not getting a UFC caliber fighter in the UFC in a lot of cases. Like, there's guys, like I try and follow the regional scene as much as I can. I can tell you there's guys they signed that aren't ready. They're just signing them just to fill up bodies, and they're getting rid of other guys that probably are UFC caliber. It's kind of a bad cycle. And the other thing that no one's really talked about is like it's hitting other promotions like LFA. They've put on some great cards over the year. They're suffering right now. I've looked at some of their main events. It's like, compared to what they used to have, like it's not as strong as it used to be, and I don't blame them because they're losing all these fighters to Contender Series, and there's no way of kind of bringing them back. So I think they should just do Contender Series in the summer. That's it. Nothing in the winter, and get rid of Tough, because the Tough format was cool back in the day because what people forget was that they were getting the best talent back when they first started, because there was no LFA or RFA or Legacy or whatever. None of those existed. They had regional promotions, but they didn't have TV deals. You couldn't easily watch the shows. So this was sort of your only way of watching sort of the up-and-coming fighters. And now that you have LFA and you have all these other promotions, like, you're not even getting the best guys in the Ultimate Fighter because they're looking for TV personalities, right? Like, they're not necessarily getting the best fighters. Like, prime example is the last women's featherweight season. They got a bunch of bantamweights. Like, why are you not signing like a Pam Sorensen who just won an Invicta or someone like that? Because we know why, right? Because they're not appealing for the TV audience. So I think they're playing with a dangerous strategy here, and you're going to see a lot of guys, unfortunately, probably ruin their careers, because what's going to happen is you're going to see these guys get in the UFC, go 0-2, get cut, and you know how tough it is to get back in the UFC after being cut. It's extremely tough. So I just think it's a really tough system for a lot of these fighters right now, trying to make their mark, because it's not the right way of going about it. You're not giving these fighters enough seasoning, and you're signing them and you're pushing them, and then they fail, and then you never hear of them again. So
it's spot on. I don't even watch the Contender Series. I do that to Matt, because like the UFC's Oprah. You get a contract. You get a contract. You get a contract. And it's spot on. It's like, nah, I'm good. If you're able to renew, that means I must know about you. You're doing something.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that they like. I think Nolan King, our good friend, had like a list of kind of the guys who he said are UFC ready, and you guys know Miles Johns. He trains at Fortis. Yep. There's a guy 100% UFC ready. Like, he's fought the tough guys, and that's one of the things that LFA does such a good job of, is the matchmaking. You're not fighting cans. You're fighting tough guys on the regional scene. So when you make that leap, like, you look at a lot of the LFA champions or the fighters that fought for LFA, they're doing quite well in the UFC. Ian Heinisch is someone right now who's fighting next weekend, who's an LFA alum. I mean, he's done quite well. You look at like Eric Anders is still sticking around doing his thing. Like, a lot of these guys went through LFA and they're good, but there's other guys where they didn't fight good competition, and you see them go to the UFC and they're not ready. So it's just they got to do something about that. And it's too much, absolutely too much.
Yeah, 100%. Sadiq Youssef, one guy we mentioned a minute ago, he went through the Contender Series as well. So there are some gems that come through. But yeah, man, it's that's why I mentioned that to you, because I had this thought, because like I know how you cover the regional scene and all these guys that we haven't heard of yet. Shouts. Go to the Scores YouTube page, people out there watching and listening. If you have not, you'll see all sorts of names that you may not be familiar with, but check it out, because James will interview them and get some great knowledge out of these guys. I had this thought last night while we're sitting ringside watching this boxing fight. It's a relatively like regional card, and I had this sort of epiphany. It's like, I feel like the UFC is starting to slowly transform into boxing in a way, because these cards are so watered down, you're only tuning in for the main event. Co-main event. That's what boxing is. Nobody knows who's on undercards in boxing. Boxing people on the card don't even know if they're on the card when they show up to a boxing event. It's like,
who's fighting? Dudes, people showed up last night. Who's fighting? Because everybody wants to see Virgil Ortiz and Antonio Orozco. And then on the co-main, I think, shoot, who was the co-main?
Listen, we as media, like, you cover boxing fights in media, like, you don't know who's on the card until, like, you show up for weigh-ins. Like, okay, this guy, okay, cool. You know, like, whatever.
Well, it's a different model too, right? Like, I think boxing's more about the names involved, right? Like, it's, you build a main event, you put the main event together, and then it's just whoever they can find. What's a good example of that actually is Bellator, because a lot of times Bellator will they do things differently in the UFC. Bellator will build like a decent like main card. Sometimes they stack the prelims too. Like, they've done that in the past because they need to give guys fights because people are on the sidelines a lot. But a lot, like, prime example, the Bader and Fedor card, right? You've got this stack card where you've got, Bader and Fedor Emelianenko. You've got, I forget who else was on that card, Henry Corrales and Pico. Like, they had a lot of like decent names on there. Jake Hager was making his debut. Yeah. They had AJ Azagaram. But you look at the undercard, it's like basically California regional MMA. You've got guys with losing records on there fighting, and it's the same sort of thing where, like, I remember they didn't even actually, Bellator didn't even want to bring out any of the prelim guys. There's a few that I knew from, like, some of the things, and I was like, I had to actually ask the PR guy. I was like, hey, can I get an interview with, like, Ryan Lilly was on the prelims. I knew him from LFA. I was like, hey, can I get an interview with him? Like, I had to ask, but it's the same sort of thing where they're more concerned about the name, and then they just go to that market, and the undercard is basically like a regional market card. Right. Whereas a UFC, they'll actually build a prelim card, and it doesn't matter. They're not catering to the market, really.
Yeah. It's just getting that feeling, man. Like you mentioned earlier, there's so many ESPN Plus cards where it's like, okay, these prelims are super watered down because you have all these guys coming off the Contender Series or whatever have you, and we're not really sure how good they are. So I'm not going to waste my entire Saturday watching this whole card. I'm going to tune in for the main card. There might be a solid main event, solid co-main, and maybe a good third fight. But that's about it these days. And, us, though, we're hardcores. Like, me and you, like, we're going to tune in for whatever. But for the general public is what I'm speaking towards mainly.
No, but I'll even say, like, it's tough for me to keep up. I'll be honest. Like, to try and watch Contender Series, like PFL, something I don't get a chance to watch a lot just because I am busy during the week. Like, it's just a lot to cover, and I'm not complaining. I know people say, oh, you should be so lucky. Like, I get all that, trust me. Right, yeah. But at the same time, like, I want to give attention to what I can, and it's just like to sit there and watch that entire card. Like yesterday with the Uruguay card, I was able to watch most of it just with the way my schedule worked that day. I was able to catch most of it. But like, look at the card, the China card that's coming up after like 241. Like, it's not a strong card either. And I think, like, even when I go to do my interviews, I look at like, okay, who am I going to interview on this card? Like, there wasn't that many fighters because a lot of them either don't speak English or they're not like, notable. Like, you want to get some like, decent interviews on there. And a lot of times, yeah, well, no, and you see that though, like 240 is a good example, right? You had Holloway and Edgar, and you had Cyborg and Felicia Spencer, but the rest of the card looked like just an average fight night card. Right. It really did. Like, no offense to Jeff Neal, Nico Price, who put it on the line and looked great, and like, I'm a big Jeff Neal fan, as you guys know, but like they have to get like you're going to have, because they stack certain cards, they just don't have the roster to have every card be like awesome. You're going to get cards like the Uruguay card, and you're going to get cards like the China card coming up where they're not strong cards. It's just the reality. They're doing too many cards.
Yeah. Doing too much is what that is, James. Doing too much.
100%. Yeah. The only reason I watch Contender Series is because I'm at work. I work evenings. I'm at work. And I'm sitting in front of a computer. So, hey, I just prop my phone up right there, and I have ESPN Plus streaming from my phone. So, I mean, if I'm going to be sitting down in front of a computer, I might as well have the card up. So that's if I wasn't at work, and if I was at like doing stuff at home, like, I probably wouldn't be tuning into it as I do. But it's a lot. The saturation is real, man. Saturation is real, but hopefully they keep. Like with this upcoming pay-per-view, hopefully, the main cards at least stay pretty strong, like this one is. So
yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, man, because I know you got some things to do. We appreciate your time as always, and thanks for sticking with us for a few extra minutes. But yeah, man, if people aren't familiar with watching this show, I don't know how that's possible. But check out James Lynch's work over at The Score and your YouTube page. You still putting stuff I think a lot of people are so my YouTube page isn't like completely dead at this point. It's like I'm just gonna do like kind of videos, like tutorials, kind of stuff, questions I get asked a lot. I just like making them into videos, so then when someone's like, hey, how do I do this, how do you do this, I just send them the link, and it's it's all good, right? So that channel's not completely dead, but in my contract with my new position, I'm exclusive, so I can't do any other interviews or whatever, but everything's on the youtube.com/thescoremma. And you kind of talked a little bit about it there, and I'm not going to go on like a whole promotional thing, but
I kind of just do. I'd like to give people a mix because a lot of these channels, it's just UFC, it's just Bellator, it's whatever. I like to get the prospects in there, like a few up and comers. And my sort of reasoning for that is, this is you don't see the NFL not talk about the NCAA. You got to, you need to talk about the up and comers. It's important. And a lot of the guys I have interviewed or girls or whoever, they've ended up making it to the UFC anyways. So you're going to get to see those first interviews of someone that you might not be too familiar with, right? So that's one thing to consider as well. So I'd like to give the variety. That's my big thing.
One of the most talented and one of the nicest guys in the MMA. I saw about 5 minutes ago, I saw Mayweather Guerrero. That was my first Mayweather fight. I've been the last 8. That's what kicked it off for your boy.
That poster right there, yeah.
I literally was touching the 217 at MGM. I said, never again. The last 7, your boy said ringside. Mayweather McGregor, I did not because by choice. I didn't want to be down with all the craziness, so I just chilled out in the high suite with some VIP people that I know hit boxing.
Which wouldn't surprise me at all. If you guys see this guy's Instagram or Facebook, man, Kendrick's living it up, man. I like vicariously live through you with all the parties and stuff you go to. It's great. So that's actually why I come on the show. It's really just to get more access and see all the cool stuff you can do. So that's the real secret there.
That's dope, man. That's dope. Well, James, man, we appreciate the time, man, and fantastic work as always that you always do, man. What's the next card you're traveling to?
This week I'm going to Anaheim. Matt, I'm disappointed you're not going, but I know it's a touchy subject. It's last time and all that, so I get it. But no, Kendrick, when are you getting to an MMA card? We got it. Let's put some pressure on him. You got to go to one of these cards at this point. I know boxing's a priority, but you got to come to one of these cards because we've been in a couple media scrums. I mean, this guy there's no one like you, man. I love it. It's great.
I literally got DM'd like 3 times in the last couple weeks from MMA people like, we ain't seen you, You always at a boxing show, but I'm literally doing some stuff behind the scenes.
Go to New York. You should go to New York. That card's looking. I think they're going to shape it up pretty good. The one in November. We'll go just like last time. Remember, you and I were both almost falling asleep at that press conference. It was so late, like 3 a.m.
I didn't want to ask a question because I would have been like rambling. That's what Conor beat Eddie Alvarez.
No. I was talking the one, but after that, that was the Habib and I Quinta card.
I was like, it's 3 a.m.
I know.
I'm like, man.
Because Habib had to call all of his family members, and then they started the presser. It took forever. Remember that?
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I had to stay in Brooklyn until 6 to take the train back to New Jersey. Cause I stayed at my cousin's house. Like, man. I
don't know if I told you guys this story. So that night, I'll just mention this quickly as we're wrapping up. I used a car service to get to the airport because I was just like, I don't want to flag Uber or whatever. I'd rather have something like actually meet me in my hotel. So I go and do that. That was right after we did that presser. I go in the car. I'm asleep because I hadn't slept that night. I put all my stuff in the car. The car gets into an accident.
Oh no!
On the whatever that bridge is to go to, I guess from New Jersey to or whatever, New York. I forget what it was. My geography. Excuse me. I'm Canadian. So what had happened was this drunk driver had run into something into the pole. The car ahead of it hit that, and then my car just dinged it. It wasn't too bad, but I remember hitting this other car. I wasn't injured. I was in the back or whatever, but it just woke me up. I was like, what the hell's going on here? And the first thought that went through my head is obviously I'm fine and the driver's fine and everything like that, but I'm like, man, am I going to make this flight? I got to get home,
Yeah.
Yeah, that New York life is dead. I keep telling Matt, though, even Barkley's got it, but MSG is just a whole nother bit when you're up at MSG. It lives up to the hype. Man, this is all facade because I had to Conor the first one, and then I go never for the second one because that was a whole hum fight week. And then I had people blow me up that JJ was going to lose, and she did. And then the 3 different champions on 3 nights, that was historic. So it's MSG is you have to see a fight at MSG. I keep telling them that.
Yeah, you got to go, Matt. I'm telling you.
In boxing, you got to go to boxing at a big fight in Vegas. It's completely different for boxing. Let's go. Wait, I know you've been for MMA. It's completely
I've been
different.
to boxing, not in Vegas. So I went in Montreal. Yeah. I saw Pascal and Kovalev. I covered that for Sportsnet 4 years ago. Whenever they fought the first time.
Hey, get you in February. Wilder Fury 2, that'd be a perfect one.
I'll talk to the bosses. That's
gonna be a mega fight. I'm trying to get Matt for that one. And see, of all the things I've done with both of them, I've never seen the heavyweight belt in Vegas. So I'm gonna check that off. Because remember, Mike Tyson, he wasn't moving around like they do now. He was always at the MGM or Mirage. So it's I got to see that on my list because I go up there. I'm gonna go to a heavyweight fight in Vegas. So I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. See, Kendrick's your guy for boxing. Any of you boxing, people out there, Kendrick knows everything, man. This guy's a wealth of knowledge.
Hey, my co-host is catching on. He seen the behind the scenes stuff. The behind the scenes stuff is 10 times crazier in boxing.
I bet
it's a goddamn mess.
Get back to get your tutorial. Literally stuff that goes on in boxing. Like 95% of people couldn't even dock in the UFC. Hell, they couldn't dock in Bellator's door. It's that bad.
Yeah, I bet
it's literally
the Wild Wild West
mess. It's a damn mess. That's why I like the UFC, because there's actually control in their structure and people act like they know what they're doing. Boxing, it's a free for all.
This is the funny thing. Why you qualify for this position? Oh, I've been knowing the owner since he was an Olympian boxer. That's their qualification. That's it.
That's what it is, man. When you can structure it however the hell you want, when there's not a corporate overhang like the 3-letter UFC, boxing is crazy. But yeah, that's a whole nother story for another day.